Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? So, patch 5 is upon us, and it looks like it's going to be a hell of a good one. If this lives up to expectations, then Bethesda will have knocked it out of the park with this one. So I'm going to do things a tiny little bit differently. Just going to focus on the key points. I'll put the patch notes down below as usual, so you can have a look at your leisure. But let's have a look, shall we? So, patch 5 is rolling out today with a number of balance and design changes, along with a large wave of bug fixes. Awesome. All of this possible thanks to your continued support and feedback for the game, which is brilliant. Glad to hear everybody's still doing that. So as the game evolves, so do our patch notes. With patch 4 a few weeks ago, we added dev notes under some of the larger changes. We've done this to provide you with more context behind things like balance and design changes. We will also tackle additional questions as they come in, and we'll update this article as needed. Okay, so if necessary, take a look back. Additionally, we're working on a known issues post we plan to keep updated as we fix existing bugs, acknowledge and address any new issues that arise, and roll out changes to the game based on your feedback. So, if you want to know whether or not something you're encountering is already known about and worth reporting, easy to look up now. So, the meat. General performance improvements made to the game, fine, cool, always looking forward to seeing those. Stability, same thing. And balance changes, so first big stuff. Perks. Damage bonuses provided to each rank of the Demolition Expert have been reduced from 20, 40, 60, 80, 100 to 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 to match other weapon perk damage bonuses. Okay, that's quite a big step down, but it does make a certain amount of sense. I don't think it'll have a huge impact because I don't see that many people using grenades. I do, but condition loss bonuses provided by each rank of the White Knight and Licensed Plumber perks have been reduced from 30, 60, 90 rather, to 20, 40, 60. And their repair bonuses have also been reduced, but that matches the Power Patcher perk. In looking at Demolition Expert, White Knight and Licensed Plumber, we felt they've been overperforming in their current roles and wanted to bring them more in line with similar perks to help prevent them from feeling like mandatory picks. Interesting, because as though I was looking at Demolition Expert, I hadn't actually picked any of the others. But, okay, it should make things feel more flexible and stop them overdoing it. That's cool. Bit of a decent balance pass there. This is some fairly significant stuff here. Explosive Legendary mods damage bonus reduced from 100% to 20% of base weapon damage with explosive radius damage. Legendary 2-shot effect. Damage bonus reduced from 100 to 25% of weapon damage. So, as mentioned in previous Inside the Vault article, both explosive and 2-shot weapon mods could result in dealing very high amounts of damage, and this was compounded if 2-shot and explosive were combined. Decided to tone both of these damage bonuses back. The Flamers, Cryolators, Plasma weapons and laser weapons no longer spawn with explosive legendary mod. And the note for that being that explosive mod causes weapons to fire bullets that are explosive. And as the weapons listed don't fire bullets, they've removed the ability temporarily, so they can make adjustments. Interested to see how the adjustments will work. Temporarily is an interesting thing. It does make sense to remove that. We've got a different idea in mind. Should be cool. So the big thing with this is that a lot of people have been basically cheating and duplicating these weapons and duplicating bobbleheads and magazines and then stacking them so that the damage from these is insane, so that even on the massively reduced damage for the first shot of a PvP attempt, it will still basically one-shot people. Essentially, it's an unpleasant griefing mechanic and one of the biggest issues they're having at the moment. So this will make that much less effective and basically mean they should function more as intended and take away the incentive for people to act like, well, insert word of your choice. Camps, crafting and workshops. Scrapping. Loose weapon and armor mods now protected from auto-scrapping when crafting. However, they can still be scrapped manually if you want to. And turrets will now gain an own tag when next to the names when built by a player at a camp or a workshop. So basically this is that when you're building something, either in any of your crafting benches or in your camp in general, the first place the game takes resources from is your inventory. So it'll also scrap any desk fans or pencils or whatever else you happen to have in your pockets before it moves on to the contents of your stash. It was also scrapping mods, weapon mods, extended barrels, suppressors, whatever else, automatically while it was doing that if those were floating around. It will no longer do that. And as for the own tag, Not the biggest change in the world, but I'm quite keen on it. I've picked up recently my first ever wanted tag, unfortunately, because I was in a public workshop and some of these turrets were floating around there. But I got attacked by a bunch of wolves, took a shotgun shot at them, and tagged their turret with it. So I now know that I basically attacked somebody else's turret without meaning to. So it'll make that clearer, so hopefully you'll be able to avoid doing things like that a bit more easily. That's cool. Design and gameplay. Carry weight is now capped to an absolute limit of £1,500 over the character's current maximum carry weight. So, for example, if your carry weight is £210, then your maximum limit is £1,710. Characters will be unable to exceed this new weight limit moving forward. Characters who already exceed this will be unable to add any additional items or caps to their inventories until they have reduced their carry weight below this cap. So these limits exist primarily to keep servers from performing poorly, which can happen when you have too many items in the game. They also play a role in helping to regulate in-game economy. We do recognise the desire to be able to own more of the cool items that we have in-game, and we're looking for a variety of solutions, including increasing the stash size, which we will be sure to talk about more when we're ready. Okay, so those who are duplicating things and basically gaming the system have just had another little nerf added, so that the incentive has just shrunk. They won't be able to carry as much as they used to be able to. That said, they don't want to penalise people who are playing the game legitimately, so that basically means they won't be able to carry any more stuff, won't be able to pick up caps, any junk, anything else, until they get things back to where it's supposed to be, which is good. For those of us who are playing fair, they're looking at things like increasing stash size as a possible solution. It's something we'd still like to see. The little £200 increase was a good one a few weeks back before Christmas, I believe. But seeing an increase in stash size would be nice again. Good to know that's coming, and that they are attending to the duplication issue at the moment. The cap stashes. To help address exploits, cap stashes have been turned into containers. It allows them to be properly reset and provide players with instant loot. Not exactly sure about the ins and outs on this one. But if it stops people farming them over and above what they're supposed to be able to, that's definitely a good change. Keep things a little bit more balanced for people. Plans and recipes. This is one that I've been asking for since day one, and I am so happy to see coming in. When viewing a plan or recipe in a menu, a known tag will appear next to the names of recipes and plans the player has already learned. So you shouldn't be ending up buying multiple copies of plans from vendors because you haven't realised that you've already got it. Fantastic, that'll save a small fortune. Really happy about that. Dead simple little change. Absolutely brilliant. The vendors. This is another good one. Recipes and plans in vendor inventories are no longer randomised. Can now be reliably sourced from those vendors, with the exception of some minor workshop and camp plans, so presumably a few little decoration things. That is absolutely brilliant, because there are certain things that people want and are having a very hard time to get, and the secondary part of this is also fantastic. The appearance of many plans and recipes in vendor inventories is based on player level, and they will show up once the proper level has been reached. Additional structural plans for wall sets, power connectors, doors, generators, water purifiers have also been added to some vendors. Cool. So building plans should be easier to get for the key items, and level-based plans should show up properly. What it doesn't mention is the upper limit for some plans. So the question is, are they still going to disappear when you exceed the upper limit of the plans available? Or does it mean there is no upper limit anymore, and if I go looking for the handmade rifle that I really want, am I going to find it now? Here's hoping it should be a lot easier to get. But yeah, that looks like a positive change. We'll have to look at it in game and see how that actually works out, but that's very, very cool. Gives me some idea of at least what I'm going to be doing probably in the next stream, which should be, now that I mention it, Thursday night. So, PvP. Hunter Hunted. A server-wide message will now appear when a player joins the Hunter Hunted queue. The message will only display once per player to avoid it being spammed. Sad that they feel the need to do this, but speaks volumes about people, I suppose. But definitely a good call. An additional server-wide message will then be displayed when Hunter Hunted is ready to begin in order to give players one last chance to join. Cool, okay, makes that a bit more effective. Also gives you a better idea of whether or not you're interested in queuing up for it. That's cool, should make that a little bit more interesting and people a bit more willing to engage with that. Quests and events. Belly of the Beast. A new Ultrasight Power Armor entry has been added to Tagady's terminal on the top floor of Fort Defiance, offering Ultrasight Power Armor plans to those who read it. My guess here is that there was no previously fixed location that you could get plans for ultrasight power armor, and this presumably introduces one, which is very good. It's nice to know that key items like this, really cool things, can be found reliably when you want them. Hopefully it doesn't turn into something that's going to be overdone and everybody's running around in ultrasight power armor. I'd hate to see any variety lost, but cool. Being able to find what you want when you want to find it, that's a step in the right direction. I'm happy with that. Monster Mash. The amount of XP awarded per round during this event has been reduced from 350 to 100. Presumably people XP farming it and power leveling far too much, and they won't be able to do that anywhere near as easily now. Cool, I'm down with that. Camp crafting and workshops. Artillery. Fix an issue that could prevent it from being placed in valid locations. Okay, artillery is easier to place. Still not particularly effective as far as I know, so it is what it is, but... Blueprints. Addressed an issue preventing players from placing a stored blueprint containing posts that were placed partially underground when the blueprint was originally saved. So if using the posts in the stairs tab, I believe it is, to support an upper level, and they clip through the ground, that should no longer cause issues when you're trying to replace the blueprint. Budget. Scrapping a stored blueprint that contains wires will now correctly remove the wires from the camp budget. So basically the wires are hanging around and taking up part of your camp budget, which is, as we well know, already very limited. So having that function properly is definitely an improvement. We don't want anything cluttering up that budget we don't need there. Exploits. Adjust an exploit that could allow players to duplicate the stored blueprints. Good, get rid of that crap. Adjust an exploit that could allow players to reduce their carry weight to a negative value. Good. Definitely in favour of that. Any exploits we can get rid of definitely make the game environment a much healthier one. Foundations. Fix an issue that could cause cannot place item needs support message to display when editing a partially floating foundation. So it should basically make foundations easier to place. Great. The basis of your entire builds. If they work better and you can place them more easily, fantastic. That's what we want to see. Junk items that need to be manually scrapped are no longer automatically scrapped for components when attempted to craft. So this is just an expansion of the scrapping mods thing from earlier. But it includes things like beer bottles, stuff like that, that are not supposed to be auto-scrapped. So that should work as intended now. Good. Stored objects. Repeatedly attempting to place an atomic shop variant of an object the player had stored but does not own no longer prevents them from placing other variants. Not particularly sympathetic to people who are falling foul of this bug, but okay. So apparently if you place it, because you can place a stored object and then cycle through the same tab, horizontal tab, and place a different variation of it, if you like. Attempting to place a variation from the atomic shop that you haven't spent your atoms on was causing the game to bug out and prevent you from placing any other item of that type as well. And that will no longer happen. You just won't be able to place the item you've not bought. But it's a good change, even though I'm not massively sympathetic to people attempting to get around the atomic shop thing. Especially for those who are playing fair. Power terminals contained within a stored blueprint now work correctly when the blueprint's placed in the location. Good, okay, nice little fix. So challenges. Gather building supplies. Scrap items to produce fertilizer condition has been updated to collect fertilizer and can be completed by salvaging or crafting it using spoiled fruits, veg or meat. Okay, so just makes that a little easier to complete. That's cool. Learn cooking recipes. This challenge will now recognise many additional cooking recipes when they're learned for the first time. That's good. There's a hell of a lot of them, and it was only recognising the most common ones before. So basically, once you've done it a couple of times, if it spawned again, a particular challenge, you couldn't complete it. So good to know that that will be a lot more viable. Retroactive credit will not be awarded for recipes learned prior to today's patch, but that is planned for a future update, so hopefully we'll be getting a nice little hit of random atoms at some point when they get that into the game. Implemented, that's the word I'm looking for. Enemies. AI. Fix an issue in which some enemies could chase the player further than intended and then become frozen in place. Good. Address several XP exploits by adding a limit to the maximum amount of XP granted by a single kill. So basically you won't be able to stack a ridiculous number of bobbleheads and magazines and then get massive XP. Hopefully reduce the impact of people nuking the living daylights out of the White Spring a little bit further, which is good. Definitely want some more variety there, please. Looting. Fix an issue that could prevent players from looting goo and ash piles after killing an enemy with a laser or plasma weapon. Yep, okay, good. Nice little bug fix. Loading. Fix several issues that could cause players' body parts, equipped apparel, or armor to become temporarily invisible to other nearby players or teammates after loading into the world. Hopefully this includes invisible to yourself as well, because I've been running into that a few times recently. And hopefully it should just smooth out the initial load into the game, which will be good. Monorail elevator. Fixed an issue that prevented a monorail elevator near the edge of the Cranberry Bog from taking players to the top floor. Scorched Earth event now has received optimization improvements. Good. Performance. On laptops with more than one graphics card, Fallout 76 will now default to dedicated graphics rather than integrated. Okay, so should run better on laptops. Items. Bobbleheads. Using multiple explosive bobbleheads no longer causes their effects to stack. Take that, dupers. Have that one in their nads. Addressed an exploit that could allow players to duplicate items using modus vendors. Not quite sure what the hell a modus vendor is, but one less duping exploit. Goodbye. Addressed an exploit in which the vampire legendary effect could restore health through unintended means. Okay, that's just a relatively smaller one, but cool. Magazines. Remove magazines from several locations where they are unintentionally guaranteed to spawn. Okay, relatively smaller fix. Radix. Consuming multiple radix or diluted radix no longer causes their effects to stack. Right, okay, that's the way it probably should work. Kind of, it has drawbacks if you've not found any either particularly radiation reducing power armor or a hazmat suit, but go look for them. That's the kind of what the game wants you to do. So having this particular bug in there was not in keeping with the goals of the game, so good to see that changed. Health bonuses. Player with very low health who unequips an item that provides a health bonus will no longer be instantly killed if removing that item would cause their health to drop below 2 or below 0. Okay, a sensible little change. They're kind of a funny little bug. Not a big deal. It makes sense that it should just cap at 1 so that you're left with 1 HP. But yeah, it's kind of funny, the idea that you take off a piece of armor that's giving you, 10 extra health or whatever, and suddenly you die. Kind of funny. Glad to see it fixed though. Perks. Cap Collector now requires players to search cap stashes, much like other perks that grant a search option, like the ammo or farmer or whatever it was. You have to open your container and you'll see a little separate search icon next to open. A little tooltip underneath should now contain a search option that you have to do to find the extra caps. That brings it in line with other perks, so that's fine. Address an exploit for affecting the Curator perk, which has something to do with the number of magazines you can use and benefit from, so hopefully that should knock the duplication issues on the head a little bit more as well. And Fireproof. Flame attack damage reduction provided by a Fireproof perk now correctly applies to Molotovs. Okay. Serendipity. Notification will now appear on screen and sound effects will play whenever the Serendipity perk's effects are triggered. That's basically a luck-based dodging perk. The Super Duper can no longer trigger when crafting quest items. Not sure why it would in the first place, but okay, that makes sense. It basically allows you to get a random low chance to create multiple versions of an object. If you're crafting, say, Stimpaks at a chem bench, and it'll randomly give you 2 instead of 1. Now it won't do that on quest items, which is fine. Traveling Pharmacy now correctly applies its weight reduction effects to a whole bunch of other stuff that it wasn't doing, which is good. PvP. It's an interesting couple of points. Addressed an issue in which stealth damage bonuses could be applied to a sneaking player's attacks during PvP, even when they're in line of sight to the target. Basically, even when stealth shouldn't work, it was working. So that should work as intended now. Good. Wanted. Fixed an issue that could cause the bounty amount for a wanted player to be halved on the map when approaching a player in the game world. So it's still paying out properly, but you can use the wanted bounty on the map to give you an idea of just how serious about PvP and gaining a bounty the player you're looking at was. And if it's showing half that, then you get an erroneous result. So, if somebody's got a absolutely massive bounty, you can tell they're going out and seeking to be in that situation. Whereas if they've got maybe a tiny little one, maybe it's just happened by accident. You can now more clearly see which of those is more likely to be the case. So probably a good little thing, that. The quests and events. There's quite a lot of fixes under here that I'm not going to go right through because we'll be here all day. But as I say, patch notes will be down below if you want to have a look in more detail. The sound, weapons. Breath sound effects will now play correctly when activating the hold breath option while zoomed. Okay, cool. For me, as somebody who does a lot of sniping, definitely want to see that. should behave the way it's supposed to. Trading. Decrease the wait time required between trades when making multiple trades with another player. Players attempt to make multiple trades too quickly. The new trade failed due to frequency. Wait a moment and try again. Error message will display instead of the previous trade failed on server. So basically, you can trade more often with other people, and if you're trying to do it too often, you'll get a more accurate response from the server about it. Fine. Not something I've done a lot of, so I assume it will mean more to some of you guys than it does to me, but okay. Fix an issue on PC that could cause the player's cursor to appear on both sides of the menu at the same time. Well, that'd be confusing, so yeah, good call. And VATS now selects targets more consistently across different field of view values. For example, VATS will no longer target enemies that are visible in peripheral vision at high FOV values, but would be off-screen at default values. This fix is to help prevent VATS from providing advantage to players who use high FOV settings. Personally, I think going over the top with FOV is daft anyway. You wind up with a weird looking game and stuff in the centre of your screen will appear smaller. So balance things so it's a lot fairer, in short. So yeah, massive patch, a lot of very, very good stuff, some cool quality of life stuff, and a massive kick in the nuts for people who are duplicating stuff, which is what we want to see. The game has been suffering with that, so it's definitely good to see that changing. Be a lot less valuable for people to do, and a lot harder for them to do as well. Hopefully they'll be hunting down and banning players who are still trying to do it as well, so hopefully we'll see a significant improvement in the game environment over the next few weeks and months. That's definitely something I'm looking forward to having. A lot less saltiness floating around as well. I'm generally in favour of that. Yeah, I've not gone through every little detail here because there's an awful lot of stuff. I've just tried to focus on the key points. When I copied it across, it was actually like 9 pages of patch notes. But if you want to have a look, all the details will be down below. So, thank you very much for watching. I do hope this was useful and informative for you. I'm looking forward to trying out the patch myself, hopefully on Thursday night. I should be back live streaming. If you haven't already, do hit that bell icon and then you'll be able to get a notification when I go live. For now, thank you very much for watching. Social media links as always down below, so please do come and catch up with me on whichever platform you might like to do so. And I will be speaking to you all very, very soon.